Good morning. This is Pastor Jason of Kona Faith Center with a word for today. And the word for today is adoption. The word translated adoption in the New Testament is huiothesis and literally means the placing of a son. Many Christians think this means that God adopted us like we adopt children in our society. This leads to a false conclusion about Christianity and how to live the Christian life, in my opinion. The Greek word huiothesis is a compound word made up of huios, meaning a fully mature adult son, and the word thesis, to place. Therefore, the placement of a fully mature adult son in his position in the family business. In both Roman and Greek culture, there was the idea of taking a son to the legal place of conducting business and publicly declaring that the son had full authority to conduct the family business. They commonly did this by taking a slave or somebody from another family and doing this because they didn't have a son or their son wasn't able to conduct the family business. The words of huiothesis are, "This is my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased." Interesting. Jesus told Nicodemus that one must be born again. I don't think anyone's adopted into God's family in the way we use the word adopted. I think they're born again into God's family, that they are legitimate sons and heirs. Jesus himself was born as an infant, a nepios. Jesus became a child, a paidion. Jesus became a young man, a teknon. Jesus was placed as a son when he was baptized and filled with the Spirit by John, the Father declaring publicly, "This is my son in whom I'm well pleased," huiothesis. At which point Jesus was placed in his ministry and began to do his ministry. He didn't do any ministry before this point. The logical conclusion of God adopting us as infants, nepios, is the predestination Reformed theology. In fact, one of my Reformed theologian commentators states that huiothesis is the proof of predestination, meaning God's in control of everything. Everything that happens is God's plan. Everything that happens is God's will, because man cannot resist the will of God. We use the word nepotism, which is a form of the word nepios, to describe relatives put into positions of responsibility in an organization based on their familial relationships instead of merit or ability. One of the requirements for leaders in ministry is that they be mature, not novices. That's in 2 Timothy, 1 Timothy. You only have to work for a leader that is a nepios once to understand the total foolishness of putting an undeveloped, immature infant in charge. On the other hand, if we see huiothesis as the call of God to our place in his family business, his kingdom business, then the focus of Christian life becomes the process of preparation, maturation, ministry, all for kingdom purposes, which puts a proper perspective on what it means to live the Christian life. We're here to love God, serve God in this world, which means that we are to prepare to mature to the point of being placed in ministry. We love God by loving the people he sends our way. We recognize that our lives, no matter what our occupations are to be about helping others becoming fully developed within and out, fully alive, fully mature, like Jesus in every way. And we recognize that it takes a more mature person to help a less mature person mature. Therefore, the goal is growth or maturity for the purpose of being placed in kingdom business. Now, my opinion is that the primary reason our foundational theology is important is not to argue about different doctrinal stances, but it's important because it determines our perception and our perspective on how now shall we live. I want to challenge you today to grow. to learn, to never stop learning, to mature, to never stop maturing for the purpose of helping somebody else grow, somebody else mature, somebody else be placed as a son in the family business. The word for today is huiothesis, which is translated adoption. God bless. Check in tomorrow.